Brian, you're sorry for mentioning that, but you're almost 80.
Yes.
But you have this nuclear energy that many young people don't have. What keeps you going?
I don't know. I just love to play, and I like to play to people. You know, I could spend my time in the recording studios, I suppose, and I do a certain amount of that. But I still like to play live. There's something about an exchange of energies, you know, that I find fascinating and satisfying.
So, no retiring?
No, retiring to what exactly? You know, what am I going to sit on the porch in a rocking chair? I don't think so.
So, if we're talking about your music, I always maintain that it's a rhythm and blues. Some people say it's jazz. What would you say?
I'd say it's music. I just, you know, this is the thing, man, is that I came up playing jazz as a jazz piano player in London, and then I heard a guy called Jimmy Smith playing the B3, the big organ, and that kind of changed my ideas around. And I also made a lot of friends, because in the 60s everybody knew everyone, and everyone, you know, jammed together. Didn't matter what, you know, whether it was rock, R&B, jazz, whatever, you know, and I joined into that circle. And so I heard Duke Ellington, who was in London many years ago and was interviewed by somebody on the BBC, and the lady said, so what kind of music do you like then, Duke? And he said, well, there's only two types of music, good and bad. I said, Eureka, I'm found. Like, exactly, I think of that. I like good music, and it doesn't matter to me whether it's, you know, classical music, R&B, you know, it's all music, and it all has some kind of spirit and elegance in it, or whatever, you know, power. And I just like to record and play the things that I like, and I've always done that. It's very eclectic. Difficult for the record companies to put me in a pigeonhole. So, you know, sometimes I've been into when record stores existed, I'd go in there and I'd find my records in the pop category. Other ones would be in the R&B, other ones would be in the soul, and some of them would be in the jazz. I think if you put all that together, I'm probably drawing from all those energies, you know, in what I do.
But, like, with your last name, you kind of didn't fit on this line of money, fame, Bond, Price, meaning Zoot Money, Georgie Fame, Graham Bond, Alan Price.
Yeah, I know all those guys, yeah.
But I mean, like, with money, fame, Bond, Price, and your Auger, you weren't tempted to take, like, a pseudonym?
I wasn't tempted to do anything except play the music that I like. And I found that has been fairly difficult in some times. But, you know, I have always managed to keep myself alive, make a living, bring up my 3 children without becoming a millionaire or anything like that.
You're not
but you know, the great thing about it is I've played the music that I want to play with the people I want to play with, and that probably has kept me going all this time. I'm happy.
So basically what you're saying, now I get to understand why you keep on playing freedom jazz dance, because it basically summarizes the very spirit of yourself, right?
It is. It was, it's also a tribute to a guy who I listened to and who was an influence on me in terms of writing. But when I first met him, you know, I asked him, listen, you know, this tune, Freedom Jazz Dance, it's got such a strange melody, you know, how the hell did you come up with that? And he said to me, well, it wasn't supposed to be a tune, it was supposed to be a saxophone exercise in fourths, Ba 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 ba. The fourths. He says, "You've got to play more of my music, Brian." And I said, "Well, you've got to write a load more exercises then." And I do it as a tribute to, to him, and also because I still enjoy playing that.
But you see, you added lyrics to that.
We did, yeah, added lyrics to it, yeah.
So that's the continuation of the freedom?
Yes, exactly. And I must admit, I've been very free to do what I like. I suppose if I wanted to make a lot of money, I could have done that in the 60s or whatever, by just falling into, this is the situation, is that the Trinity I put together is basically, it means a union of three. It was my jazz trio, first of all, and that stuck with the Trinity and Julie Driscoll. And Julie loved Nina Simone and all sorts of different people, and would ask me, "Oh, can we play this tune?" And it was always a stretch to find a way to, to arrange it so that it was interesting for everybody. When I got to, and I was trying to sort of have a bridge between the jazz scene and the burgeoning, the other music scene, which had R&B in it. People like the Yardbirds and the Beatles and the Stones and all those guys, and I was trying to kind of take the rhythmic side of that, which attracts people, and build on it some different harmony, some new harmony, and this for me was to try to put a bridge between the two scenes. And we were the first people, Julie and I, to open as a headliner for like the Berlin Jazz Festival in 1968. That was such a conservative jazz festival that it was pretty strange, that we were topping the bill. But the same thing happened in Rome that year, Zurich. But in Berlin, when we went on, we were dressed like from the Chelsea Antique Market, and and I was following Dizzy Gillespie, the big band, and it was wonderful. And when I went out there, about 50 people in the audience of about 3,000 stood up and started to shout, and say, "God, get off!" They were upset because it wasn't, I hadn't even played yet. So I actually said to them in German, "Look, if you don't like my clothes, that's fine. But until you've heard my music, you have no right to boo." And all the rest of the audience was cheering and booing and the festival director came up to me and said, "This is great. This will be great for the newspapers." I thought, wow. Completely crazy, but that was it. It was like the barriers between things were coming down at that time, and then in 1970, when I wanted to push on and develop this music further, I started the Oblivion Express, which hasn't reached oblivion yet, obviously.
Yeah, but talking about bridges, when did you add the quote from Greek to Freedom Jazz Dance? You play, as far as I heard, it's a bit of In the Hall of Mountain King, right?
Oh yeah, it's just a quote. It's just a quote. It's one of those melodies in the back of your mind, that you know forever, and you're playing away, and all of a sudden it comes out. Music's a very funny thing, actually. When you're soloing. There are magic nights when stuff just is like, wow, I don't, who is playing this? it's, you know, you have the experience of watching your fingers play, but you know, and knowing you can't make a mistake tonight, you know. And the music, you know, it's improvised and everything. Anything may surface from that. The only way I can actually explain that is that sometimes it's like a radio signal. Sometimes you dial it right in, and from somewhere in the universe comes this, you know, improvisation and ideas and different stuff. I wish I knew what that was, but it doesn't matter, actually. It's just magic, which is music, is magic. All this stuff is energy, you know. In the macrocosm is the energy of the universe. In the microcosm, if you look at it, there is also a universe, you know. I think we have the imprint of the universe within us, and at a certain point we strike this kind of vibration and energy in whatever we're doing, and ideas just come through, man. And some nights I have to labour, you know, because I can't hear properly or whatever it is, but those are the magic moments, man. Those are the ones you aim for.
And you mentioned your bands, Trinity and Oblivion Express. So originally it was Trinity, it was like a trio. Then you were you and trio. You, trio, and Julie, and then it's Oblivion Express.
Yeah.
But in the last, let's say, 15 years, 20 years, the line got blurred. It's sometimes you build as Trinity, sometimes as Oblivion Express. So where does the line go?
There is no line, man. I mean, the band that was called the Trinity with Julie was finished in 1969, basically. 1970, the idea was this bridge had kind of been established. We played all the jazz festivals, you know, with this type of music. And I wanted to actually push on with, and try to expose whatever there was in this, this kind of mix of things. And the record company, of course, if you had a hit, and we did a number one in England and hits all over Europe, and then they want to keep you in that little avenue, you know, so that you produce for them. Well, that's too bad, you know. I didn't want to do that. And so I made the Oblivion Express so called because I thought, well, now I'm going completely against the commercial tide, and so therefore maybe I'm headed the quickest way to oblivion.
but it was then. But what about now? And how do you decide how to build yourself this night or that night?
I think, the train rolls on, I think, you know. I'm still trying to kind of, you know, put one foot in the other and get better as a musician. You know, I think if you stand still, then...
I was amazed by your piano trio album. That was something unexpected, really.
Yeah, well, it was unexpected for me because I've always played piano in the middle of my music, but I came up playing jazz piano. I'd won the Melody Maker Reader's Poll for piano in, I don't know, God, about 1964 or something like that in England.
It was piano then, not Hammond.
No, but later on, in 1970, I won the Reader's Poll in Rock and Folk magazine, big German music magazine.
German, not French?
Yeah, I think it is, Rock and Folk, yeah.
Not French?
Well, it might be French, but no, I think it was German. And I was the first person to actually win 2 categories simultaneously for organ. I won the rock organ and the jazz organ categories that year. I don't think anybody's done that. But then, you know, those are things that really, you know, none of this stuff makes any difference to what you want to do. So, you know, the Oblivion Express rolled on, and then I hit a patch in the 80s where if you mentioned jazz to the record companies, man, the doors slammed in your face. And so for 11 years, you know, I went on playing with different people and doing some, I did TV things, super drumming. And I was having a good time anyway, you know. And then in 95, I managed to get all my masters back from everybody.
Yeah, how did you manage that?
Well, it was tough, you know. It was a struggle. But anyway, and then I started the Oblivion Express again. 95 with my son and my two daughters sang in different periods and that. And we went, so we went on and I just tried to make the best music I can possibly make.
But this piano album, you didn't play anything by yourself. You played other people's music. Why didn't you cover anything?
Well, because those are the things. This is how this came up. We play a club, a very nice club called Bogies, which is in Los Angeles, Westlake. And the guy who is the entertainment manager is also a good piano player. And he called me up and he said, listen, Brian, I've got this project in mind that I want to do, and I want to put on a different piano trio, jazz trio, every night for a week. Would you like to start the week? I thought, do you know what? I've never, and I wasn't thinking of recording or anything. I thought, that's great. I'd love to do that. So I said, yeah, okay. And I spoke to Carmen, my son, about it, and he said, oh, that's good, Dad. Yeah, well, let's get Dan Lutz, who's an upright bass player, a great player. And so we agreed, and I asked Carmen, I said, what do you think? Should we record this? And he said, I'm a bit rusty. And I said, you're a bit rusty. I've been playing digital pianos. A real piano is something else, A big Steinway. It was beautiful. And so I said, well, no, just leave this. Let's go and have some fun. And after we played the whole evening, he handed me a thumb drive. He'd set it up and he recorded it. And so it wasn't supposed to be any of that. And I said, my God, I thought you said you weren't going to... And he said, well, I never know, Dad. There might be one or two tracks that were okay, And when we went through it, I went, wow, the first all piano album that I've ever made. and the reason I chose those songs is that those pieces of music is, I'm sure jazz people know those pieces. And so I played them. Some of them I hadn't never played before, but some of them, I played for a long time, and I just enjoyed doing that. So that was it. That's how it came about. It was like a kind of an accident, like everything is.
But what's interesting about you playing the same things over and over. Some people do that, re-record that, just to, to recapture the former glory. But when I listen to, when you record a new, not live version, but a studio version, something like a Bumping on Sunset, whatever, I always have the feeling that you're searching not for a holy grail, but for a new context. To highlight something in this music that you didn't highlight before. So am I right?
Well,
for this context thing.
Well, yeah, because if you mentioned Bumping on Sunset, I mean, I first heard that.
By the way, may I interrupt you? Barry Dean said to say hello to you.
Oh, great. Barry Dean, the crazy Barry, man, But we had some great times, actually, and he's a great player. Bumping on Sunset was something I heard. We were in London every weekend. We used to get together in this basement in Askew Road, Shepherd's Bush, and with some friends of ours, and we'd bring different albums that we'd heard and everything. And somebody put on Tequila, which was a Wes Montgomery album, and Bumping on Sunset came on, and I just went, oh my God, that hit me right here. I said, I've got to record that. And it's a thing that stayed with me. But it's also stayed with my audiences, and the people want to hear it. To me, there's such an atmosphere that comes from that tune, and there's a lot of new things that come out of it, and it's just a great piece to play.
I mentioned that as just an example, but there are a few pieces that you keep re-recording.
Yes, yeah.
So the emotion behind it is the same, just to find something.
But I think people like Miles recorded stuff again, and then you hear it and you go, that's fantastic. It's a different solo, it's a different idea or whatever, if I re-record something and it's never the same as the thing that and it shows a step onwards. And this was the thing about Miles Davis, is he was fearless. This guy would go from one thing and step to the next, and I've got Birth of the Call, and then Milestones, and then Kind of Blue, and then 7 Steps to Heaven, and then Porgy and Bess, Sketches of Spain. I mean,
my favorite.
It was just like, wow, this guy, what he's doing is also showing you his movement forward as a musician. And that was something that I felt always that was very important, to try and do that if you can,
And he had this composition called John McLaughlin. And you played with McLaughlin very early on, right?
Yeah, we knew each other from when we were about 18 years old. And every weekend we would go out. We both lived in London, and we would go out and play for the U.S. Army bases or the Air Force bases. And they always had a club, like an NCO's club or, an officers club or whatever the ranks were. And they always booked, music. And so we did the rounds of all that, and that was good. That was great. John was a phenomenal player from the beginning. I always thought that I hadn't heard anybody that good in Europe, certainly. And when my manager, Georgia Gromelsky, said, I've got some money from the record company, who shall I record? I said, John McLaughlin. And little did I know that he would meet Tony Williams, who I met later on, actually, and played with. But Tony would introduce him to Miles, and suddenly, there we are. It's just amazing.
You just played together. He wasn't part of your band.
No, he wasn't part. Not that band. No, I had a band in the Pigalle in probably 1965, and he was part of that band. But we played gigs together. It wasn't exactly a band thing until it was the rock and roll scene that generated these bands where you'd have the same personnel. And I always thought, well, that's a great idea, because you could all move forward, in a great way.
But you had your trio, and then you kind of abandoned it to be a part of Steam Packet. Oh, why did you abandon your own thing? Just to try to break through commercially?
No. I mean, John Baldry was the best blues singer in England at the time. And he asked me, he came into a club where I was playing with my organ trio. And by the way, the first date I did when I bought an organ, it was in Bexley, I think it was. The Green Man, actually, in London, South London. And John was part of that. He was in that, So, we gigged. We didn't form exactly band. I did. I formed a trio, and I called it the Brian Auger Trinity, and we played at Ronnie Scott's under that name. But anyway, I think that what were we talking
about? Why did you leave your own trio to play with Baldry?
I didn't leave my own trio, as a matter of fact.
It was in parallel?
No. I could play with them, or I could play with the steam packet. But John said, look, I need somebody to be the band leader and run the band, and so we had a meeting. All right, so at the meeting, I was asked if I was interested in working with John, because John wanted to work with me, and I said, well, yes, of course. And then he said, well, I've got another guy that I want to come in the band, and his name's Rod Stewart. And I said, well, I've seen Rod around the scene, and I think he sat in with me a couple of times. It's no problem for me. But I said, well, what kind of band is this? If you've got two male singers, what is it, like a kind of Sam and Dave review? He said, well, no, it's not that. And I said, well, and the agent asked me, well, what do you think? And I said, well, it's easy enough to put a rhythm section together, but maybe I just did some recordings with a girl called Julie Driscoll. Why don't you invite her in? There's nothing like that on the scene, 3 singers. And they said, well, how would that work? And I said, well, I could go on, I could play an instrumental by Jimmy Smith or one of mine or whatever. Then Julie could come on, and she's got such a wide spectrum of music that she likes. She could do stuff from, the Tamla Motown stuff, and also many other singers like Laura Nero, and I'd say, I said I could sing back up for Julie. Rod comes on and does his Sam Cooke impersonations, and we could both sing back up for Rod. Then John comes on, and we can do straight Chicago blues and also some gospel stuff. It will be the whole spectrum of everything. And that was very, very, that worked very well.
So by pure chance, you started working with a female vocalist.
Yeah.
And then you continued with your daughters, and now with
Liliana.
Liliana. So what's so special for you in female vocals?
Well,
that male vocals.
Well, Julie Driscoll is a phenomenal singer, and also a great person to be in front of the band. And my, because of the material that we did, some material that people wanted to hear, like Season of the Witch and stuff like, those things. You need a female voice to do that. And so for a long time I didn't play any of those tunes until my girls came into the, and they asked me to do that. Dad, I want to sing this, or I want to.
But I think that Savannah sang something not from Julie's time, but from Legions Wood time, right? Like straight ahead.
Yeah, because exactly. Well, Lidgerwood wasn't on the first Straight Ahead track that I did, actually, which is on the Straight Ahead album. It wasn't on that album. It wasn't on the one before, because he came in 1971, and then he had some problems, marital problems and everything, and he had to go to Paris. So he was in Paris for 2 years while I made the Closer to It album and the Straight Ahead album. And I called him to wish him a happy Christmas, and said, and both of those albums went on the Billboard charts in the States, on the jazz, R&B, and the rock charts. So
and you took him to America.
It kind of confused the Americans, My record company was phoning up saying, what the hell kind of music is this? So basically I called Alex and asked him, I said, what are you doing? He said, well, not a lot. And I said, well, I've been touring the States. Would you want to come with me? And he said, I thought you'd never ask.
But, he progressed from you to Santana.
Yeah,
but you played this music actually before Santana. I would say of all the music you introduced it
Well, yeah, because we He came in 1970. Well, it was 1971 when he first came in for about 2 years. Then 73 and 74 he was away. Then 75 through about 77 we were touring the States. And then I had not had a break for 16 years at that time, and I was kind of a bit mentally and physically exhausted. And so I said, look, I got to take some time off, you know. And we all lived in San Francisco at the time, including the Santana band, and I think they had their eye on him. And he called me and said, hey, Brian, I just spoke with Santana people and they made me an offer I don't know whether I can refuse. And I said, well, you know, and also he was kind enough to say, look, if you're going to go out and tour again, I'll come with you, man. And I said, I can't do that right now, Alex. Go and do this thing and, you know, look after yourself and put some money away.
You basically prepared him for this world music. So how did you arrive at this idea that you use on Jungle Telegraph and definitely what this African, Latin American music? Did you hear a lot of it in London? I don't think so.
Latin American music, well, yeah, our conga player, Lennox Langton, was from Trinidad. He played in the steel bands, but also played fantastic congas and percussion. And so he introduced me to Eddie Palmieri and many, you know, Mongo Santa Maria. I was already listening to that. I loved that, you know. So, and when I got out to San Francisco when I was living there, the Escovedo brothers had a band, and I played in that band as well. I love Latin music, man. It's incredible. So, as far as Walfredo Reyes is a wonderful drummer, man, who's played with everybody. He is Liliana's dad. So she's got all her stuff going in the right place, you know. And also she's got a tremendous voice. And I think she's somebody that we're going to notice, you know. So keep an eye out, man.
Yeah, and you basically on the Voices album, What's from at the time?
Yeah.
You went back to this Latin American music. It was like, to me, it was like a bossa nova album, samba album. I had this vibe listening to it.
Oh, it never struck me as that. I think. No, I think you should listen to it again. And Voices of Other Times album.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I have, well, at least that's what I made like noted here.
I think there's, well, It Burns Me Up is one of the second track, I think. But there's a lot of more, it is a spread. But there's also a lot of, kind of more, what can I say? More kind of fusion-y music, you know. What's the question?
Yeah, the question was about you embracing all kinds of music and embracing this looseness. So when I watch your live shows, especially that 75 concert that's on YouTube, like it's very loose live. So
yes,
you're the band leader. You basically sometimes just blend it into background and let other people shine.
Of course. I mean, you know, what's the point of having a great soloist in your band if you're not going to let them play? You know, and I'm not really a band leader. I don't see myself as that. I'm a musician, and some people would like to play with me, you know, and basically that's it. There are people that I'd like to play with as well, you know, and I have them in my band now.
How do you form your band? Like it's a fluctuating lineup. You change guitarists, you change singers. So you basically just call somebody and say,
I see people that I like. I mean, I'm not on the road all the time with one unit, you know. Or maybe somebody. My band is a band that people kind of look at and go, get that guy, you know, make him an offer he can't refuse. So a lot of the musicians that have been in my band, I'd say it's kind of like a school, you know. I'm not some strict kind of leader or anything like that. You lead by example. And if people don't like you and you treat them badly, then they don't want to work with you, you know.
Talking about schools, like people like John Mayall say, they are recognized as this institution that other great players came out of. But I don't feel that you're given your proper due as this schoolmaster. You started like Gary Boyle played with you, one of my favorite guitar players.
Yeah, great, Gary. Yeah. The thing is, I mean, what is your due? It really. I'm absolutely satisfied with the fact that I've always played with people that I want to play with, and I've always played the music that I want to play. I mean, what else you want? You know, I mean, it's like maybe people in the big record companies don't see that is the way to go. They see that you should do what they say, and they should step into the studio and be a producer and tell you what your music is supposed to sound like. And I don't get that, you know. I've always taken care of the music, you know, and got it the way I want. Maybe it's not for everybody, but. That's not for me to judge, man. I'm here as an artist. I stand on the periphery of society, and I tell you what I see. I tell you the truth of what I see, and I try to accompany that with the music, you know.
How satisfying is it to play with your family? Like, you play with your daughters and Karma. Is it satisfying? Is there a special telepathy between you?
Yeah.
Or just parenting done right?
Absolutely. My eldest daughter, Ali, who suffers with migraines and can't really kind of come out on tour now, you know, it's crazy about Sarah Vaughan. She has a spectacular voice. And we made an album with Ali, and then Ali couldn't come on tour again. You know, he said, Dad, I can't do this, you know. Then I didn't even know, you know, Savannah was into drama and theatre and was in plays and stuff at college. And we were writing down the people that we were going to contact to sing in the band. And Karma said, well, have you tried Savannah? And I said, well, Savannah doesn't sing. He says, well, she does, but you haven't heard her. I said, you must be kidding. He said, no. He said, look, why don't you give her, let's say, half a dozen songs, and we'll have a rehearsal, and then make up your mind. And Savannah was like, oh, my God. So she was in the band until she came to me and said, Dad, I'm getting married this year, and I want to start a family, and, you know, so these things, they come in and they, you know, and things happen like that. That's fine. It just is like this used to upset me to lose anybody from the band early on. It was like losing an arm or something, you know, because the chemistry is something that is really important. But you know, then I see that it's new blood, new ideas, new whatever, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But is there a special telepathy between you and the kids?
I would think so, yeah. But I never told them what to play. You know, because they know. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the band.
So, like, I like how Savannah treated those songs much better than Julie. Because with Julie, I felt like it was like a bit of intuitive, but in Savannah's voice, I heard this like proper proper vocal training.
Well, I think Savannah, the differences are that Ali is a tremendous jazz voice, beautiful. Savannah is much more of a kind of a rock mix, but they both can sing anything. So they know the band, they've seen the band, so I think they had enough examples to be able to step straight in. And I was just, I've always been like amazed at what they could do. So, and also Karma's phenomenal, can play anything, jazz, Latin, just the whole deal, and basically now runs the band for me, and looks after everybody. He's just an amazing person.
You mentioned standing, we mentioned society. Standing on the
periphery of society.
You played in Czechoslovakia in '68.
Yes, yeah.
How do you remember that?
I remember that very
Iron Curtain.
Yeah, very fondly in one way. We played in Bratislava, and so first of all, what I did was, there was a lot of press and people kind of around, and I understood that the concert was sold out, but only people who were in the party could get tickets. So that was I asked one of, I met a guy who wrote for the local paper, and I said, could you translate some stuff into Czech for me, or whatever, Czechoslovakian or whatever, yeah, because I want to go and talk to the people and say, good evening, and then I'd like to play you a piece by the Beatles, or I'd like to, whatever. And I still remember some of that, like he said to me, and I wrote everything phonetically down, and then I went up to the microphone at the beginning, and he said, you need to bow a little bit, like good evening, dobry večer, and everybody stood up, like, oh. It was like, I went, wow. So the other thing was like in Bob Nadia, we want to play Tanečnú pesničku Beatles, A Day in the Life, like, whoa. And people came up afterwards and said, wow, we didn't know you spoke, Czechoslovakian. And I thought, well, I don't, but Dennis here helped me, And he said, yes, but you got the local accent. Yeah, because I've written it down phonetically.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, basically I speak 4, which is French, German, and Italian, and a little English.
How does this polyglot experience help you with your music? I mean, it does something to your brain, right?
I think it does. But I have used that everywhere, even in Finland now, the same thing. Find somebody who speaks English, write down what you want to say, in phonetics, and tell the audience. It is such an icebreaker. Everybody kind of ready, and you talk to them in their own language, and they're like, oh my God.
You mentioned Beatles, and I saw your pictures with McCartney in the studio. What did you do with him exactly?
That was, I think we were recording for a singer that he was producing at the time. So he's sitting at the organ saying,
who was the singer?
I can't remember, quite frankly. I don't know whether it was Mary Hopkin or somebody like that, but I can't remember.
And by the way, you played back to Hammond, and you've been band leader, a reluctant band leader. So who did haul your Hammond around? You cannot do it yourself, right?
I did, first of all, yeah.
By yourself?
Yeah. You see that?
I see that.
That's something that popped because I played in Newcastle. There was a club there called the Club A Go-Go. Very, very, A pretty famous man among all the people that came from there, the animals, and you know. And it was 7 flights of stairs up. And holding this thing there, and something popped one night, and I went, "What's that?" Doesn't hurt, thank God. You know, so for a lot of time I had one roadie, and it was my organ. You know, well, it's your organ, isn't it?
And there is a picture of your organ on top of Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, that wasn't my organ. That was a little piano, actually. Yeah, I did this thing with the monkeys, and 33 1/3 monkeys, revolutions per monkey. I think it's out as a DVD now. And I went into the studio one morning, and there were 3 pianos, one on top of the other, and the names were, like Little Richard, I think, was on the second tier, the Fats Domino, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Little Richard. And then I said, "Wait a minute, what's that thing up there?" "Oh, that's a little piano. You're going to be there." Anyway, they got a ladder in the well of the piano, so I climbed up there, and we started to kind of play. When we started to play, these things were shaking, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, if this lot comes down, it's going to wipe out a large section of the rock and roll world."
Did you see that as an pyramid of evolution from the
I really don't know about that, man. I was too scared to think of any of that. It was pretty ridiculous.
And I think that the first time you played piano and organ was on Green Onions, on your cover of Green Onions, in the 60s. And then you started to introduce more instruments, more and more. So,
no, I was playing organ before that.
No, I mean piano and organ.
Oh, piano and organ, yeah. Well, I still like to play piano, so I, added stuff.
Sorry, you're in a hurry. You want to go back? You don't have no time?
No, it's okay. I mean, in a minute I'm going to go back and get my dinner.
Yeah.
But what else have you got there then?
Well, I wanted to ask you about your expanding your instrumental palette.
Because all of a sudden, there's the Hammond organ, and I play the piano, but then synthesizers started to come. I used the Moog synthesizer when it first came out. On the Reinforcements album in particular, and then there's another album called Planet Earth Calling, Search Party, and I used a lot of, it was a Prophet 5 actually, and linked a couple of those together to get the sounds that I wanted. That was okay.
But did you feel is something more emotional when you got back with Julie and got back to Hammond on the Encore album?
Oh, the Encore album, man, that was rather difficult actually. That was not really. I mean, Julie came over to San Francisco to make that album, and we had among the people in the record company, and particularly the producer that they'd got for us. It was in the end I had to tell the producer to go away, and I finished the album myself. And so I don't know whether we just used the organ and some organ piano.
Did you work with Eddie Offord and Gomelsky as producers?
Oh man, Eddie Offord was fantastic, because I first met him when we were making the Street Noise album, and the thing was, Eddie was only about 18, but you could ask him some strange questions, difficult to say, it's like trying to explain music, but he would search for a sound for you until you got it. And I would say, "Great, that's fantastic, Eddie," And also, he was a guy who would edit. You know, the 2-track is spinning, and he goes for the stop button and pinches this tape like, and cuts it. And I'm like, wait, Eddie, don't cut it, man. I mean, let's try it. No, that's it. That's the place, and it would be perfect. I'm like, I can't believe that. So on the Street Noise album, I called him Eddie the Surgeon Offered.
And Gomelsky? And George Gomelsky?
Gomelsky was a con man and left us completely broke after 5 years of work. And I had to start again from scratch. So I don't have anything... I'd rather not say anything bad against anybody, you know.
Okay.
If you can't say something good for them, don't say anything.
Okay, last question. So you played for a few years with Eric Burden.
Yeah.
But you didn't record a studio album. Why?
No, I didn't record a studio album because we recorded a live album.
Well, I know, but why didn't you record a studio album?
Because he didn't want to do that. I was amazed that he, you know, just before the band broke up, I was about to step out when he said, do you think we should, you know, do a live album? And, well, it would be a shame that this band, you know, doesn't get a shot, something that's recorded, you know. So, but he has continued to block that album being put out again. So, I don't know what it was, but it was a hell of an album.
But your album with Jeff Golub was like an opposite to that?
No, that was tons later.
Yeah, but I mean that you played, you just like went and played with...
Yeah, but I ran the band.
for Golub?
Not for both of them, no, but for Eric I ran the band.
Yeah, but what about Jeff Golub?
Well, I got a call from Jeff's agent saying, you know, Jeff Golub wants you to you know, wants to record with you and would like to have you on his album and, you know, for the whole album. And I said, well, I don't think I know who Jeff Golub is. Could you send me a couple of CDs or something, which he did. And I was like, wow, this guy can play. He's got fire and he's got soul. But what they didn't tell me until I had agreed was that Jeff was suffering from a disease and had already lost his eyesight in one eye and it was going in the other eye, you know. So I called him and spoke to him and I thought, this guy's got a lot of guts. You know, he's decided that, you know, he wants to do an album and he's going to do it. And also, he wants to go out and do some dates as well.
But it wasn't an equal billing. It's like a Jeff Golub album featuring Brian Auger.
Yeah, it wasn't my album, it was his. Yeah.
So, last question, before we go and take a dinner. Was you playing with Kiss and Rush the most incongruous experience?
What was it, King?
You once mentioned that you played between Rush and...
Oh, yes.
And
I'll never forget that. We were with an agency, ATI, and they had everybody, you know, and... I think it was in Richmond, Virginia, or somewhere like that, and we were on. But they were putting us on with different people, and also different people asked for us to open for them, like Blue Oyster Cult. I went, who are they?
They're great.
Yeah, and also you know, rock bands, and that was one that was like Rush. Was called Mahogany Rush just before they changed the name to just Rush, and then us in the middle, and then Kiss. And I thought, well, no, this should be interesting. I'd never seen Kiss before, but it was so loud I had to go outside to listen. And that was Richmond, Virginia. Yeah, but it's all music.
So how does your sense of humor help you?
My sense of humor. Well, I suppose
is it a requirement for survival?
Oh, yeah.
In the business?
Yeah. This is for dinner.
Okay.
Hey, Carl. Just finished. Yeah. Right. I just finished here, and I'll be right there.